My guest at this time is Arizona Republican Congressman Paul Gosar. He represents his state's 4th congressional district, and he joins me now to discuss Congress yet again failing to address the appropriations process and passing a continuing resolution to fund the government until December 20th. And Congressman Gosar, it's always good to have you with us, sir. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, Greg.
Well, the headline from the media, of course, is government shutdown avoided. So this is a great thing. But ultimately, we're punting fiscal decisions till at least December 20th, if not beyond that. So why is it so hard for Congress to get to work on the normal appropriations process?
It's a problem, Greg, with priorities. We see it with the majority in the House, and they're the ones that set the ball rolling. And they're more interested in the fake impeachment process right now than they are of anything else. And so it comes down to the priorities. And what we've seen where Democrats hate this president more than they love this country. And so it's all about priorities.
Did the House go through any sort of regular order with the appropriations process, or no?
They did start part of that process. I will give them the credit for there. But then they reached points where they didn't want their members to start taking votes. And they, when you look at the NDAA, there's the divisive aspect that the Democrats do not want the president to get a win in regards to money advocated for the border wall. And so, that fight continues. And this hampers our military because, as you know, a CR does not help them. It actually hurts them because they don't know how to continue and prioritize projects.
What do you expect to happen a month from now? Will we have another CR? Will it be a massive omnibus that takes us the rest of the fiscal year, or something else?
No, I predict that what we're going to do, this is typical fashion of leadership here, is that they back you up against the Christmas holiday, like the 20th, imagine that, and try to extort a vote that's on a bad bill to either do a CR or to try to do some kind of a omnibus package that is, just blooming at the seams with federal spending. So I suspect because of the nature of what's happening with the non-impeachment process that's going on forward in the House, I suspect that we will reach the 20th and we will end up doing another CR to maybe even in March, maybe even later. Maybe all we do this year is a series of CRs.
One of the things I remember Chairman Tom Price telling me a long time ago, used to be chairman of the Budget Committee before he left for HHS, was that regular order gives you a chance to go line by line, and it obviously gives you a chance to cut spending in specific places where you think it's excessive. When all we're seeing are CRs and eventually an omnibus at some point along the way, where is there an avenue for any fiscal restraint?
There's none. That's one of our principal aspects is that we define where the money is going. We define where each individual program and what it gets. And when we don't do that, we advocate, we pass the buck to what transpired before, just with different dollar amounts. That's what's sad, is that there's nothing new. There's no real oversight that's done in that process. And there's no new laws that really become part of the whole process. It's really, really sad. But that's why I look at the process, and I've been one of the big proponents of it. We have put way too much power in the hands of the speakers. We need to have a process that's generated from the members, from their different committees. The chairman should be picked by members of the committee so that they're beholding to the members, not beholding to leadership. And so there's more impetus to actually listen to the members and get the regular order. That's how you get things done, is making sure that the general membership is empowered.
What would you like to change? I'm sure you'd like to change a lot in federal spending, but as it specifically pertains to your district, you mentioned border wall funding. What else would you either like to see beefed up or eliminated that would specifically affect your constituents?
Well, I want accountability, Greg. I mean, when I talk to my constituents, how is it that we keep adding more spending when we look at, take for example, military spending? I want a strong military, but when we lose $126 billion where we don't know where it goes, why are we giving an additional $35 billion the next year on top of that? so we're going to lose another $161 billion. Why don't we turn the agency on itself, that if they find that money, they get to spend it on the project. They have to show us where they found it at, and they can put it on a project that is a high priority for them. That way what ends up happening is you don't get this negative feeding frenzy where you're spending another $35 billion in military spending, but then you got to double that, another $70-some billion to spend on discretionary spending to offset that. And in the whole aspect, you've lost $250 billion. That's how easy this aspect is. But that's the compounding interest of money that you're losing. We should be holding people accountable, spending our dollars right. And there's billions upon billions of dollars that are lost just in contracting, just fair contracting, fair and transparent contracting for the federal government. These are simple things that are hanging there. And when people start to see that it's real money, it becomes contagious. And we owe that respect to the American taxpayer. We don't have a revenue problem. We got a spending problem and an accountability problem.
On Thursday in the U.S. Senate, the CR was passed, but not before tabling Senator Rand Paul's proposal for what's known as the penny plan, which essentially calls for trimming one penny out of every dollar. And it's not surprising that it got tabled, but the vote might surprise some people. It was mid-70s to about 20. Which means that more than 30 Republicans voted against pursuing that idea. And the argument could be, well, we're up against a deadline. We got to do something and kick the can down the road a little bit. Others might say there's just no interest in that. So what do you think of the penny plan? And what do you make of the fact that a majority of Republicans want nothing to do with it this week?
Well, a lot is said when your leader actually says nobody loses office by spending money. Really? I want to remind people about TARP in 2010. But it shows people are not serious about the process here. And we got to get this in order. We can have our cake and eat it too, but we can do it on the backs of accountability, transparency. We need more business people here. That when you sign the front end and back end of checks, you understand the process of budget. You understand the nemesis of compounding interest when it's working against you when you're owing deficits. So it really is what we're seeing right now is truly the swamp. You have no accountability and limited accountability to the voters of those that are here that are just following along, singing the same old song.
You mentioned the quote from the leader, nobody's been voted out for spending money. Certainly 06 was not a good year for Republicans. Some believe that they had not tightened their fiscal belt enough. And when we get to situations like this and Republicans have a mixed record, you could say, on this issue, how much tougher does it make the argument for Republicans to say that we'll be a whole lot different when Democratic presidential candidates are making the argument for way, way more spending?
Well, it becomes the lesser of two evils, Greg, and that's part of the problem. I would contend that we didn't lose. Democrats didn't win the election in 2018. We lost it. Trust is a series of promises kept. We made a lot of promises to the American public, and we didn't uphold them. And it didn't come from Donald Trump. It came from our leadership. It came from our caucus. Where was the repeal and replace? Now there's ways to do about that. We've put plans in place and options in place that actually breaks down all the remaining parts, like for healthcare, for example, so that it gets to be a center focus on the patient instead of those that are going to benefit from it, like the corporations, like the pharmaceuticals, like the insurance industry, like the big hospitals. There's opportunities to correct this that you come back to the American people and say, listen, there's a reason why you shouldn't have trusted us before. But now what we've done is we've delivered on these aspects. This will help us deliver a process that won't fail, that is accountable to the patient, to patients, includes them, empowers them, and doesn't victimize it. It corrects wrongs, and we include everybody at the table so that the solutions are looked at in a comprehensive manner. That's what we ought to be doing. And that's why we got Donald Trump, because people knew that the process was broken. Donald Trump is a disruptor. People don't like disruptors. But you know what? It's a calling that we have to do. The system is broken. We got to get back to it. Look at the background of the people that are voicing their opinion, saying, "Listen, policy goes through me." No, policy doesn't go through you. It goes through the Congress. It goes through the president, depending upon what part of that statute it calls for. We got a big problem. We got a government that doesn't work for the people, by the people, and with the people. It dictates to the people.
Congressman, we'll have to call time there. Thank you very much for helping us understand where the spending debate stands right now and where it's likely to head. Thank you very much, as always.
Thanks, Greg.
Arizona Congressman Paul Gosar represents his state's 4th Congressional District. I'm Greg Columbus reporting for Radio America.